When does this start? It starts right now. Welcome in, everyone. Hello. Welcome to day two. Day two of working on agents in public with y'all, teaching y'all how you can use agents to write code for you and also use Warp as an application. If you're joining us for the first time, that's awesome. You're joining in on probably the more exciting part of agentic coding, which is actually optimizing your workflow. You already understand how to use agents and you just want to get better at it. That's definitely going to be the purpose of this stream. So if that sounds like you, you've definitely come to the right place. Where's everyone tuning in from? Wanna hear some shout outs in the audience? We always get some people from all over the world. And I'm also seeing that my stream is probably going to come in on like a bit of a delay, but that's all right. How's everyone doing? For me, this is Thursday morning out here. I'm just going to leave like 1 minute and then we'll jump right into it. But yeah, we're going to be picking up from a project that we were working on last time, which was yesterday. If you don't know the full schedule that we're doing right now, we have a 101, and then we have sort of a 201 that we're doing. Today's the 201 branch, where we go into more like intermediate level skills with coding. Not Claude Code skills, but skills that you can bring home and use coding agents more effectively in Warp or in any application that you're using. And you don't need to know anything that we did on the previous stream in order to hit the ground running on this stream, so don't worry too much about that. This will also be available as a resource after the stream on our YouTube, so you will be able to find the live recording if you want to share it with a friend, watch back through some details you might have missed, or even ask an agent to write a summary of the video for you. Definitely something that you can do these days, so all that will be available to you. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. We have a few people in Texas again. We got Dallas and Austin. I don't know if y'all are the same people that tuned in yesterday, but we also had people from Dallas and Austin for the first stream this week. South Africa, crazy. San Francisco, AI capital of the world, yes. I'm surprised we don't get more San Francisco people around here. Maybe they're too busy just like coding all this stuff. It's like, I don't need a class. I'm just going to run around like crazy and kick off 10 agents at the same time. I don't need this. Who knows? But I do feel like, yeah, San Francisco is where everything's happening. I visited there somewhat recently, and man, that is all that you can talk about. The energy is in the air. So, exciting place to be. I hope you're enjoying this wave of agentic coding as much as everyone else is. So, yeah. Too jaded? I can imagine. Okay, so we are going to hop right into it. I'm going to set up my browser on the right, terminal on the left, and we're going to see what the heck is going on. So, actually missing my AWS. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to be working on is this project right here off to the right. This is an issue triage client that will run inside of your terminal. So it's a terminal UI, a TUI, as you may have heard it called. And it's a very simple application. It's something that lets you triage GitHub issues. So you send it a repository when you run the command right here, and it will show you all the issues for that repository and give you some options to take action on that. Maybe you want to open a pull request. Maybe you want to have an agent work on that issue straight up for you. That's what we built last time, was a way to copy a prompt for an agent to work on your GitHub issues. And yeah, let's go ahead and run this and see the state of the union. This is on this repo right here, which you will find on the warp.dev GitHub. This is public and open source, so if you want to follow along with me as we're doing these agentic workflows, you certainly can. Just clone that down into your Warp terminal, and you'll be able to follow along with this. This is different than the repo we used on the previous stream, just so you know. We separated it out so that the starting point for each repo would be where I'm starting from. I tried to do it with a bunch of different GitHub branches, but it felt a little funky because we do want some workflows against your main branch, so it's a separate repository. So take what you did yesterday. You can even bring what you already did yesterday if you just want to like run with that, totally fine. Or you can just clone this down and start where we are on the main branch. I also have a solution branch. Forgot to call this out last time, but if you want to see like the finished product of what we're trying to build here, you can head over to the solution branch, and there it is. But you can go over to the main branch and you're all good. I also suggest this time forking the repository because we're going to be talking about how you would make pull requests using an agent. So you'll want to have a repo that you have access to push pull requests onto. I've already done that myself, so I'm going to go over to a repository of the same name on my personal account, and you can see it's just a clone of what we saw over there. So with all of that out of the way, we can start just coding stuff. So let me run the application. I'll do a very brief run through of how Warp works. 101, or the one that we did last time, we talked a little bit more in depth about how you use Warp, both as a terminal and as an agent orchestration platform. It can do it all. So you can see in Warp, you have an input box, you have your repository that you're currently in. We show you a brief of your working directory, as well as the branch that you're currently on, with a nice clickable button to switch between all of your branches. Love that. We give you some nice affordances since we own the entire terminal experience. And when you go in a directory, you can take actions on things. We have very nice autocomplete. We also autocomplete all of the commands for known CLI clients, which is very cool. So you can see here, we already know everything about Cargo, so we give you a nice description of everything you can do in Cargo with inline documentation in case you want to learn it or have more effective autocomplete. I will also say our autocomplete is powered by a mini on-device model. So it's not just completing whatever you ran last week. It's actually completing based on your previous command. So it's very smart at auto-completing things. For example, here, this is a more basic prompt, but it's telling me, yeah, let's run it against what you used last time, which was with Astro/Astro. So what I'm doing here is I'm running this GitHub issue triage bot, or not a bot, UI on top of an open source repository called Astro. And if I click into that, it'll compile and run it straight in my terminal. You can see it takes over to full screen. It takes a moment to load up, and this is something we're going to work on today, is data caching to get that running a lot faster. But you can see here, once it pulls up, we get a nice overview on the left of all of the issues in the repository and a description of that repository on the right. Or sorry, description of the issue. So you can see here, as I'm arrowing through, we can look at all the options. And we made a few bug fixes last time to make this nicer. Like now we have good text contrast for all of these options. Before, it was using a dark gray that didn't respect the color theme. It also scrolls when we reach the bottom. I don't think we had time to implement that last time, but that is an improvement over the other version of this repository. And we also added a feature here to copy the repo as a prompt, or copy the issue as a prompt. So if I wanted to, for example, have an agent investigate this GitHub issue, I could hit P to copy the prompt to my clipboard, and then I could open a new tab to ask an agent to work on it. And in Warp, if you ever want to interact with an agent, it's very seamless. You can just start talking to it. And we use natural language detection, which is also an on-device model, to decide, oh, that doesn't look like a shell command, that actually looks like an agent prompt. So we're going to kick it over to an agentic workflow instead. No need to enter a separate CLI or anything like that. Warp just kind of understands what you want to do. And I'm going to paste in this issue that was copied, and you can see it copied all sorts of really nice details for the agent to start working on this task right away. Now, there are two improvements that I want to work on this stream, and I'm going to use it as a chance to talk about some reusable workflows you can add to your setup. I'm going to talk about the most common ones I use, both discussing save prompts as well as rules, both global rules as well as project-based rules. So we can see here, when I'm copying the prompt, there are two UX concerns that I would want to fix, or usability concerns. If I hit the P key, you'll notice that it doesn't give me any visual indication that anything happened, which is a little weird. I have to paste to actually know that it worked. And second, it doesn't put anything at the start of this prompt that I copied to actually instruct the agent on what to do, which I don't really like. The way that I interact with an agent is typically, I want to do a plan, and in Warp you can use /plan to enter planning mode right away, which is very cool. And I would want to tell it, fix this issue, so it's more explicit. And the rest of this is added context that it would use to address that issue. So, given all of that, let's ask an agent to fix some of these usability problems. So I'm going to hit Control-C to close out of that. And by the way, as we're working, feel free to ask questions. Ask me things that are totally off base about the Warp product as well. I'm totally fine with side tangents. I will try to keep us on rails, but if you have any questions like, hey, I'm using Warp and this thing doesn't work how I expected, yada yada, you can certainly ask those questions here. So let me go ahead and do that here, and I'm going to use voice input for this. I highly recommend using voice input for pretty much everything on your computer. I've gotten very addicted to it because I can get ideas down way faster with voice than I can with text. I tend to be more thorough and also use correct punctuation and all that stuff. So if you hit voice input, I want to fix 2 usability concerns here. First off, when I hit P to copy the prompt, it doesn't give me any visual indication that it was successfully copied. Also, in the copied prompt, it should tell the agent what to do. And I'd like it to use /plan at the start so that it creates a plan. There we go. And I'm not really telling it like mechanically what to do, I'm just letting it decide. And you'll also notice it has some really nice formatting. It does use HTML formatting instead of Markdown. This is a ticket that I have out to make it a little bit nicer, but you can see it is very structured for an agent to read. And it's very smart about putting like italics around key terms. /plan is actually the / character. Really good. So if you've ever been thinking, voice input, not super trustworthy, it actually is these days. It's a great choice. And while an agent runs in Warp, you can totally just kind of go to a separate tab and let it run in the background. This is a nice thing about Warp is we build in a lot of the stuff you have to build up with Claude Code. Like, you don't need a tmux setup. Warp is just you use tabs and they work. And you don't need to set up like a hook for desktop notifications or status symbols or whatever else. Warp has all of that baked in. So you can see here, if you hover over, you can see everything it's working on, including a conversation summary. You can see status indicators. You also get an in-app toast notification when an agent's done, so you can click back over and address the concerns. It's really nice. If you have multiple agents running at the same time, it's super easy to just keep track of what they're doing with the Warp agent. So just calling that out. But of course, you can use Claude Code to follow along as well, or Codex, or whatever else. Since Warp is a terminal, it is what you make of it. Now, we can see here it gives you a diff inline, and you can scroll through it to see the full file, which is pretty convenient. But I tend to auto-approve my tasks these days and review when it is complete. So in Warp, if you ever want to auto-approve something, there's this little drop-down button right here that you can click on to auto-approve. This is very similar to Approve All mode in Claude Code and other tools, and it's accessible with the keyboard shortcut here, Command-Shift-I, at any time during the session. And when this is on, it's allowed to make diffs and do code changes without you having to go in and approve everything. The only thing it'll be blocked on is anything in your deny list, which we maintain for you, but you can add more options as you build up a muscle for this sort of stuff. Okay, cool. So it made some changes to the UI. It's showing a status message, and it runs cargo check for you because these days agents are pretty smart about checking their work before returning control to the user. So I'm just going to run this and see what it looks like. So if I run this again and we go through the copy prompt flow, we should see something a little bit nicer according to what the agent told us. So there we go. And let's say I want to work on Netlify Dev. I'll hit P. Now it says copy to clipboard at the bottom. Really nice. I'm also going to see if I start arrowing. Yes, it dismisses that notification. Great. Didn't even have to tell it to do that. And then if I paste the prompt, it should say at the start, investigate and fix this issue. Perfect. All right. These days, it's not that much of a surprise to me when an agent one-shots or gets the task correct. If you're using Opus, it technically will most of the time. And I didn't even call out at the top, but you can use any model inside of Warp, including the Codex series. We recently launched 5.2 Codex, which is really exciting. So if we look at the model list here, you can choose all your reasoning levels. We have nice charts to compare everything for you, which is super great. We have a few internal models that we're testing, but I will call out the most popular ones, which is our auto series of models, like responsive and cost efficient. We're also experimenting with Genius, so get ready for that one. We have Opus, which is a fan favorite, and that's something that I usually have on by default in Warp. We have Gemini. We have GPT as well as the GPT Codex series, so if you want to experiment with any of those, we have tuned our harness to support Codex. That actually took more work than you would expect. It's not as simple as adding a model to the list. We actually put it through our quality team, we put it through our benchmarks and evals, and then we add it. So if something's on this list, it's because we vetted, yeah, that's really good. So yeah, we've got the Codex series, and of course we have 4.5 Opus, which is what we're using today. But you can use whatever you want, anything that you want. And we give you nice ways to look at your credit usage and all that stuff to just monitor what's going on. And there's a little credit bubble right there I like to call out. Okay, so everything is working here. Now let's talk about, well, first off, let me review the code inline here. It's looking pretty good, I think, because I've reviewed this code multiple times in the past. I am noticing that it's doing a lot of stuff inline that it may not need to. There might be a way to consolidate that. Copy to clipboard is good. It's pushing that string. That looks fine to me. So pretty decent setup, but I don't feel super comfortable just making a PR out of this right away. I'm actually going to do something we didn't talk about last time, which is having the agent review its own work. This is something I don't see a lot of devs doing, or they assume that the agent does it for them, and it doesn't. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So let me show you here how you might set up a workflow to have the agent review its own work. First, I'm going to ask it to commit its code. Stage and commit this code for me. Going to put that in there. Cool, cool. And these days I just let it write commit messages for me since it's often more thorough than I would have been, like adding a commit description as well as co-authored by, which you can remove with rules if you prefer. But at this point, I actually want the agent to review its own work. And the way you do that is really up to you. I like to make a new conversation first, so you can click the conversation switcher and start a new conversation. No need to clear your screen. You can just hit that button and everything is left in context. So no need to run like /clear or something like that. And once we have this set up, I'm going to ask a fresh agent to review the code that the previous agent wrote. So here's an interesting thing. I like to do this as a planning step as well. And I like to say, review the code that the previous agent wrote. It's just one commit. There we go. And I do also think we should probably make a separate branch out of this before we go. I'm realizing that I should have done that ahead of time. So let me first make a branch for this. And you'll notice in Warp, you can just write commands and you get full auto-completion, unlike other tools where you don't get auto-completion when you're writing commands. In an agent session, you get that in Warp. It's great. So I'm going to say switch, and that's my name. And I'm going to call this GitHub, or what is this? Fix UX. Copy prompt. That's decent. And if I log everything out, we should see, yeah, the diffs against head. And I'm actually going to show you all the code diff view, which I forgot to do. Before you make your PR, you can diff against your main branch. And this will show you all of the changes that are made in this branch against the other one. I usually went to GitHub in order to get a view like this, but in Warp you can diff against any other branch in your project, which is super convenient. So here we're looking at the diff against main, even though I've already committed everything. Lovely. And I'm going to ask the agent to review this instead. So I'm going to say, review this code for PR, consider code quality and opportunities to simplify. And I'm going to ask it to also make a plan so I can review the code changes that it wants to make. And you can also, this is a unique feature to Warp, which I really like. You can do diff sets. So let me actually do it on a new line so you can see behind my face. If I click on @ in Warp, you get all sorts of ways to attach context to your query. So here you can see you can just like attach files, for example. If you know the exact name of a file, you can do that. You can even do function names, which is really cool. So if I wanted to say like @copy prompt, I think, yeah. You can also attach function names if you know the exact name of a function, which is very convenient. But you have a whole variety of other things, like different terminal output blocks, which we're not going to talk about, I don't think, but that is there. You can also attach notebooks that you've written down, planning documents you've written in the past. Warp saves all the plans you write, so you can attach plans to future conversations. And here's an interesting one, diff sets. So I can attach all of the changes made against the main branch like this, and the agent doesn't have to go off and read from GitHub all of this context. We're going to insert it in a token-efficient way, which is really convenient. So now you don't have to ask the agent to look through your Git stuff. It's just going to inject it into the prompt for you. Nice little affordance, I like to call out. When you have a moment, how do you make your input look like that? It should be the default if you're using the Warp terminal. If it's not enabled for you, you might be an OG that's been using Warp for a little while. So let me call out where you can do that. I believe it's in features, but I could be wrong. Let me see here. I usually type out, yeah, there it is. So it's in appearance input type. And you have two options here. You can do classic, which may be what you're used to. It looks something like this. And you can also do universal, which is our new input that looks like this and gives you a lot more detail on what's going on. So that's the switcher. If you're using an older version, or if you have older config set up in Warp, this is where you can go to change it. Just calling that out. All right, cool. So if you want to try it out, just go to that user setting, and there you go. Okay, so now here's the PR review. So this is not really something people use plans for a lot. I just like to call out, plans are really cool. You can use them for anything. You don't have to like plan out a long, extensive coding task. You can also just use it as a way to get a nice agent output that you can review. So here I'm doing a PR review inside of my terminal, because why not? And it's telling me some issues found, like the clear status calls, which I noticed while I was reviewing. Amazing. We also see silent error swallowing. That's not good. I agree with that. And we should show some feedback for that. And there's no timeout for the status message. It persists. So I agree with all of this stuff, and I like how it ends with, here's the things that matter the most to me. You can address whatever you want. I personally think all of these are correct. So I could tell it, like, just do 1 and 2, or I could click on execute this plan to do everything. So there we go. Nice. Now it's going to fix up this thing and get it ready for a pull request. And while that's running, first I'm going to put it to auto-approve. You need to change the auto-approve setting for every new conversation you create. Just calling that out. You can also change in your user settings to auto-approve everything all the time. I'll call that out because some people like doing that. So in AI, there's this thing called a profile, which is a really cool aspect of Warp. You can have like these different profiles you can switch between that are tied to a model and are tied to a set of deny list and allow list. I used to do this a lot. Now I just use Opus for everything, but you can create multiple profiles for the different workflows that you have. Like maybe use Haiku for very simple questions and then Opus for your coding tasks. You can set up profiles for that. But the reason I'm going in here is everyone has a default profile when you sign up for Warp. And inside of here, you can configure all sorts of things about the agent, like whether it's able to apply code diffs without asking you. So you could say, I trust you to always make code diffs on my behalf. And also, yeah, agent decides for read files if there's something like in .env. I like it to not do that, so I'm going to leave that there. But this is just a little call out. You can always allow code diffs from your settings, so you don't have to hit the button every time. Same goes for execute commands. I think I gave it full autonomy just because I trusted it enough. But yeah, go in here whenever you feel pretty good about calling MCP servers as well. I'm going to set that to always allow. And that should be it. So now my agent doesn't need to ask me. I don't have to hit auto approve anymore. It'll just do it. Just calling out, if you want to fine tune that, you can. Universal prompt is great, but it would be nice to see other things like AWS profile, kube context. Love that. Yeah, we haven't gone far enough on like the chips that you could have for environments. The most we have right now is like your Node version and your Python environment, but we don't have much about like the external services you're connected to. It's a cool idea. I'd honestly write that down because yeah, one thing we don't have is like customizing which chips show up. So if we could have some way to customize that, that'd be really cool. Okay, and it just finished writing this code for me. You can hit review changes to see what it did, and I'm going to switch it over to uncommitted changes so I can just see these changes. This is great. So now it's moved the clear status to the top instead of inline. Perfect. And did it do anything else? Doesn't seem it did. Changes made, error handling, clipboard errors now display the status. Does it? Where? Am I crazy, or did it not do that? Either that or my diff view is not showing everything. Am I crazy, or is the diff not here? What? I feel crazy right now. I'm gonna do git add -p, and this will be my source of truth here. Yes. So if we look at all this, what did it do? Oh, it's right here. I'm just not seeing it. Yep. So it's copy issue prompt sum that. Okay. Yep, that makes sense. I feel silly. All right, cool. And we could run it one more time just to verify that it works. And let's just see that. So if we go in here, we can see this. And I can also show you a neat party trick for how the agent could verify this work on its own. It's only applicable because of what we're doing here. And I'm also going to need to set an environment variable. Little call out in the repository for following along at home. There is a note in the README about how you would create a GitHub token. This is a sort of hot fix that Warp told me I could do to have a GitHub token from my local GitHub CLI. You need that if you run into rate limits, which I did. I found I run into rate limits a lot because I've done a lot of like dry runs of this stream, but it happens. So let me open this up and let me see if everything works as expected. Here we go. Just updated Warp, but I still don't see the diff sets when typing at. Oh, that doesn't seem right. So you don't see diff sets in the at menu. That's been there for a long time, so that's very surprising to me. I think if you just screenshot the issue and send it to us, we can take a look because, yeah, it should be there. I don't know. And you can report that on GitHub, or you can report it in our Slack community, which I like calling out. So either place, just send a screenshot and show us what's going on there, because that doesn't seem right to me. Okay. And I'm not sure why this isn't pulling up anymore. Interesting. I'm just going to close this tab. I'm honestly not sure what's going on there. But I did want to... Oh, shoot. There actually is something that I want to look at here. Okay, yes. So if you do Command-Shift-T in Warp, you can restore a previous conversation, by the way, which is what I have done here. And there's one thing that I wanted to talk about, which is like, what if we do this all the time? This code review thing we did, for example. Reviewed this code for PR, considered code quality and opportunities to simplify. I do this workflow so often that I don't want to type it out manually every time. Is there a way in Warp to have a set of custom slash commands, skills, or anything else? And in Warp, there definitely is. Let me show you. So if you do /add prompt, you can save prompts that you use all the time for later, beyond an alias that you can easily remember. So if I wanted to say review you for PR, I could paste in here this prompt. And now this will have everything in it. It will prompt it to create the change set, and it will prompt it to create a plan. This is a beautiful thing about Warp, is we really encode every aspect of context into the prompt itself. So, for example, this is something no one else has done, I don't think. Planning is part of the prompt. So now every time I run this workflow, it will create a prompt for me. So, for example, if I ran /review for PR, it will insert all of that with all of the context. So then it will create a plan, it will do everything else. Now, of course, it's already done all of this stuff, but it will go ahead and look at the first diff. Okay, cool. And then it will do all of this stuff there. Honestly, I expected it to already have the diff in context, so I will ask the team about that. Cool. And it did actually find some other issues, it looks like. Error messages are shown in green. Yeah, I did notice that, actually. So there's all sorts of things we can improve from here, actually, so that's fun. And you'll notice here also plans are synced to Warp Drive. So if you ever wanted to go back to previous plans from previous conversations, there's this button in here in the side panel called Warp Drive. And if you go down here, you have a plans folder, which is very populated for me. And you can see a chronological set of all the plans you have ever done. So if you wanted to revisit an old plan and continue working on it, you have that option right there without having to like commit markdown files or anything like that. Just a cool little side feature, I guess. But nice, now we've created a reusable workflow. Every time we create a PR, we can just run /code review and we're ready to go. And I'm gonna abandon that plan, and I'm just gonna commit this code. Of course, you can keep going, you can refine it, you can get it ready for PR, you can leave comments, all that stuff. But in the interest of time, because we're on a 1-hour live stream, I will move on here. So it looks like we've already added everything, and I could add another workflow to commit this code. I think we even wrote one last time, yeah. So this is another thing that you can do, is if you like having the agent commit your code, minus the typo, you can create another saved prompt to just make a commit message for you. So that's what I'm going to do here. And the last one I'm going to do is making a PR out of this. Oh yeah, if you're outside of a Git directory, you will not get that. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I should have thought of that. Okay, cool. So now we've committed everything. And now I'm going to ask it, open a pull request. We don't, or actually, let me create a workflow that I also use all the time. Let me make sure if I already have it, actually. Open, yeah, make a PR for my open changes. I think, oh, this is something that we've shared with the rest of our team. So this is a prompt that someone else wrote that I could also access. That's a cool thing in Warp is everyone on your team has access to all of the saved prompts as long as you move it to your team's folder. So let me demo that really quick. I created this here to review for PR. And if I wanted to share that with my team, I can actually hit this button right here to move it to the Warp organization. And if everyone else is using Warp, they can see all of the prompts that I've created. So no need to have like a global repository, everyone cloned, so everyone has the same global prompts. You can just sign in and you have access to all the prompts on your shared drive. It's a lot like Google Drive. Like if you want to give permission for other people to access it, you certainly can. And you can see we have a ton of workflows here at Warp. So just calling that out. We also have a social aspect if you want to share prompts with the rest of your team. But let me see if I have a, oh, I already wrote that prompt because I've done this demo in the past. And a bunch of a bunch of examples here. It shows you that I work on the product myself. And I can probably delete a lot of these at this point. I will go through those later. But let me go ahead and have this make a PR for me. So I'll say make a PR following the pull request template if present. Otherwise, summarize the purpose of the PR and technical changes made. Cool. And this can now just access my GitHub CLI to make a PR for me. And anyone who's wondering, how do you handle GitHub access typically with an agent? I've seen a mix of some people using the MCP server and some people just relying on CLIs. I tend to just rely on command line tools. So I would personally suggest just having the GitHub CLI set up. So it's called GH, just ask Warp install the GitHub CLI, and then it will be able to do stuff on GitHub for you. That's the simplest way. I will also call out, though, that we do have an MCP server option. So if you go to settings in Warp by hitting on this, and then settings, you can go over to your MCP servers, and you can add GitHub access from here as well. This is kind of a different flavor of the same thing. And this is something that we build into Warp is a set of predetermined MCP servers, so you don't have to go hunting through config yourself. So built into Warp by default, you can just enable GitHub, and it will take you straight to a sign-in screen. So if you want to have GitHub access for your agent, you can also go to your MCP server settings and enable from there. I personally just let it use the command line tools I have, but if you prefer to use something that's more turnkey, that also exists. And then if you open up your pull request, which I'm doing right here, we can see that it's sure enough, moving that up, it made a PR for me. Lovely. So now we can see refactor normal keyboard handling to improve UX, move clear status to the top. Oh, so I think this made, what is this talking about? Surface errors. Okay, so this is actually a PR that's describing the code review changes and not the purpose of the entire PR. Interesting. So I think I need a better prompt, to be honest. I don't like the pull request description. It should describe everything that this branch did, not just what you did as an agent. I probably should have prompted it to look through all of the changes against the main branch, which I did in a previous saved prompt. That's on me. So it should be able to update that description, though. If you ever run into issues, just ask it to correct it. It's totally fine. Okay, so let me move this browser back down so I can track my my live stream stats. Please don't turn into Jira for AI coders. Yeah, don't worry about that. Certainly not. We do also have a lot of like config as code, and it's something that we're working on right now. Okay, it's trying to format everything. Perhaps the MCP server would have been a better thing to do here. Who knows? Yep. All right. It's realizing it should probably use the MCP server to do this. Interesting. And while that runs, and you can see here now it has access to MCP. I'm gonna kick off another task, I think. Oh, but it finished. So let me actually look at it. So now if I reflect all of this, I'm gonna refresh the page. It looks like it actually didn't make the change. Or maybe it did. What did it change? So what did it try to say? Yeah, it consolidated that. Display error messages for copy issue prompt in status bar. Yeah, we're swallowed by the let. I'm going to move on here because I still don't like the description, but I think that's just on me for asking the wrong agent to do this. I think the right answer would have been to make another conversation to make the pull request. So that's a call out. Previous context matters a lot. And if you don't want it to over-index on the things that it just did, you need to make a fresh conversation. So that's a note to myself the next time I do this demo. Make a fresh conversation. All of this is exploratory, as you can tell. Okay, so we talked about saved prompts a lot. Let's talk about rules. This is something that Warp and every agent has, and I want to call it out as something pretty important. So if you want to access rules in Warp, you have project-based rules and global rules. And the purpose of a rule is to have some context that's in every prompt you ever send to an agent. So if there's something you always want an agent to remember, you would put it in your global rules. If there's something project specific that the agent should always know when it's working on your repository, that would go in project-based rules. We're not going to go super in depth on like having separate project-based rules for subdirectories, which I have seen. We're just going to talk about like project rules at the base of a project and also global rules that are for everything. And first, I'm going to talk about the for everything sort of rules. If you want to access your rules in Warp, you can hit Command P here. Or actually, I think we have a slash command now. Yes. So if you hit /rules, you can open your project-based rules, or you can open your global rules. So if I click on Open Rules, this takes me to my global rules panel that goes for everything that I'm doing. And you can see them nicely listed off to the side here. And I have a few already, like describing related repos on my machine, describing that I want concise responses. I love this one. I recommend this rule for most AI development, just so your plans are more terse and easy to read. Opus is pretty good at being terse, but this makes it even more optimized when you're reading through things. So this is an important rule I like having just to have really clean output that's token efficient, is saying in all interactions, plans, and commits, be extremely concise. Just throwing that in the chat if you want to add that to your setup. It's very good. But I'm going to add another rule here that, well, actually, I'm going to add two more rules for the next feature that we build. The first one is formatting your code. I like giving it a rule to say, always format your code before returning to the user. For example, run cargo format after making a Rust change. And I could make that a project rule as well, but I found in general, just have it format my code all the time. So I'm going to save that, so that way it always remembers to format before returning control to me as well. And a second one that's going to apply to what we're doing is something for multi-step plans. Now, this one is a little bit more biased. You may not want this one, but I'm going to put in here, for multi-step plans, divide them into multiple phases with different headings. That way I can describe which phases to implement at a time so we don't have to implement everything at once. I found that Claude is already pretty good at dividing things out into like 1, 2, 3, but I like having it written out into phases so it's thinking like, I want to break this up into features so we don't have to implement the whole plan at once. Like, let's just implement this chunk of work. And I call this multi-step plans. The name doesn't really matter. It's mostly just the rule. But I like having this one in there to format my planning documents a little bit more. So I'm going to paste some of these rules into the chat if you want to use these. Otherwise, you can definitely customize your setup however you prefer. And yeah, what does the coffee one do? That's a fun one. If we have time at the end, I'll show off this one. But this was for a little video that I put together where I had Warp order coffee for me because it's able to run through CLI agents autonomously. Like, you could use Warp to control and navigate Claude code or control and navigate terminal.shop, which is very cool. So I'll demo that in a second. We are going to talk about terminal use today, which is very exciting. So there we go. I've set up some global rules. All of that is good. Now, the second thing is maybe you want to edit the rules for just this project. You can use open project rules for that, and that'll take you to a repository file. So this is a warp.md. Don't worry, by the way, if you have coworkers that are using Claude, for example, you could rename this to Claude.md and Warp will still read it. You can also have an agents.md for codecs, and we will read that as well. I am using a warp.md, but use whatever you would like. And I've already set this thing up with a number of rules about how to use this project for the first time. And I will be real, I did not write this. I had the agent write this for me. But the goal of a project rules file should be describing stylistic approaches of the code base and also having a snapshot of everything the code base contains. So that way, when it's going off and searching for things in a code base, it doesn't have to do blind searches to find where everything is. You outline the lay of the land. Like, here's where all the modules are. Here's a general data flow. Here's some key patterns, and keep them very, very brief as you possibly can. But the goal is for it to know a basis of everything that the project is structured as and what it can do. It's very similar to a README, honestly, but maybe more detailed or opinionated so that the agent knows how to contribute. It doesn't stick to cup. I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Hope everything's all right. Okay, so let's work on our next coding feature. Okay, so now let me hit this button and start a new conversation to work on a new feature. So what I want to add to my application right now is data caching. So you'll notice when I pull up this repo, for example, and we start loading it, it takes a long time. So it takes a bit to actually go to GitHub, pull down all of the issues, and eventually display it to me. That took maybe 5-8 seconds, something like that. And that's fine for initial load, but it shouldn't happen every time I open this panel, right? Like, if there aren't any new issues, it should load instantly. It shouldn't have to, like, wait and load everything at the same time. So I'm going to add a bit of data caching to this project, and I'm going to use a plan in order to implement this. And now that we have our rules and everything in place, we should be good to implement this guy. I want to add data caching to this application. I'm thinking we use SQLite for this. I want to set it up where we load all of the issues up front, we cache them, and then the next time you open the app, you only fetch the issues that are new. So we could use a timestamp to figure out, is there anything new past a certain updated date? And if so, just fetch those issues. Our goal is to get initial load times down. There we go. And that's probably more context than the agent needs, but I like using my voice to just ramble and have it include all the details that it could possibly need. And I'm also going to open a separate tab to change branches. You can do that while an agent's running just fine. You can hit Command-D in Warp to have a separate tab off to the side, which is very convenient. So I'm going to switch back to the main line, git switch main. And I'm also going to merge that fix that we did earlier. So I'm going to merge in... what was the name of it? Well, I should be able to see it in my branch history, right? Yes, benh. There we go. Look at that. It auto-completed that, and I never ran this in the past. It just knew. So cool. So now I'm just going to push that up, and we should be good to go. Nice. And we can see off to the side, we also have web search built in now, which is very cool. You can disable it in settings if you prefer, but I like having it enabled, so if we're talking about libraries, for example, it can go to the web, look around the documentation, and figure out how does OctoCrab handle caching based on a timestamp, and it comes back with a nice understanding of everything. And now we can see our rule set is also taking effect here, where it's broken up everything into phased headings. Love that. So we can see a current state of everything in the code base. We're going to add the storage layer for phase 1. So we're going to add Rust SQLite with bundled. Love that. We're going to add a cache struct that wraps around everything. We're going to put our thing there. Our scheme is going to look something like this. Looks right. Here's our methods. And then we're going to add our issue struct, incremental fetch logic. If since provided, do that. Love that. And then we integrate the cache into the app. Very cool. Okay, so I'm liking the look of phases 1 through 3, and for the integration, I would like to do this in a two-step process. So let me explain this to the agent. Great, let's execute phases 1 through 3, and as a MVP, I want you to populate the initial cache, but don't update any of the OctoCrab fetching yet. My goal is for us to just make sure on initial load that SQLite is populated, and then we'll use a SQLite shell to verify the work. There we go. And now I'll let that transcribe, and we'll go from here. And it also used Roman numerals. Well, that's a new one. Still works. Makes sense. And once it's done, we're going to use for full terminal use in order to check out how that works. But while this is running, I'm going to talk about that coffee shop example just to show you the crazy things that you can do with full terminal use. So if I ask it to order coffee for me, you saw there that I had a rule where every time I ask you this, go ahead and route that to the terminal.shop UI instead. So I'm going to say order coffee for me, and we're going to see what it does. It also tells you where it derived the rule from, as you saw there. But look at this. Here's something you've probably never seen before. So in Warp, if you're running an interactive shell, it brings the agent along for the ride when that shell command is running. So here we have a full-on, what would you call this, a TUI, I guess? Where you can order coffee through like this, e-commerce experience. And you'll notice off to the side, the agent is looking at the output of that shell, and it's able to interact with that shell as well. So we can see off to the side, is it okay for me to interact with this shell command? And I'll resize it a little bit here. And it tells me what it's about to do. So I'm going to say, yeah, auto approve. Go order coffee for me. So now it's able to navigate through the shell. It's going to send inputs to it. And now it's slowly navigating its way around the UI, which is just crazy. I've had mixed success on it figuring out the UI for everything. You can see here it is actually putting something in my cart and navigating to it, which is crazy. Okay, the menu is open. It's figuring it out. I like doing this just to show y'all the extent of what you can do. Oh, it figured it out. It went down. Amazing. And now it's going to navigate this. It's very similar to watching like what was it? The OpenAI browser navigate the web for the first time. It's very similar to that, where it's just like adding things and doing stuff. But of course you can do very productive things as well. So let me just kill that off and we'll go back to what we were doing. But okay, now we're back over here and look at that. It actually loaded the TUI this time. I didn't ask it to do that, but that's very funny. Okay, and now it's going to quit the application for me. Look at this. So it's never stuck. It's never stuck. If it runs a TUI and it's like, oh shoot, I need to hit Q in order to exit this command, it can do that. So look at that. It ran the cache. It's making sure the SQLite cache was populated. So cool. Very cool. And now it's going to use SQLite to make a one-off query. Amazing. So that's a brief demo of full terminal use. It's able to, when it runs a long-running command, it can actually see what's going on. All right, so now it's running some SQLite commands to select stuff out and make sure that's populated. Amazing. And I'm actually going to stop this and ask it something else. Can you open the SQLite shell so that we can navigate together? I want to see what the schema looks like. I'm going to put that in there. And the answer is yes, you can absolutely try this out for free. We have a token set for free tier. And I did make sure everything we've talked about on this live stream is doable on the free tier. So you can go ahead and do that if you want to. And then beyond that, it's per token. You can look at the pricing plans, yada, yada. If you have questions about that, you can, of course, ask those as well. But hey, here we go. So I asked it to open the SQLite shell. And now it's saying, I'm waiting for you to tell me what to do. I'm like, all right. How about this? List the database schema. Very simple thing. If you're ever navigating a production code base and you just want to understand the structure, you can ask it to run some commands and tell you all the information. You can also hide the responses so that you can see what's going on here. I'm going to show it again. And I could also ask it, verify that there are issues present in here. It already did verify this, but I'm going to ask it to do that now from an interactive shell. So now it's looking at there's 100 issues present. Amazing. So now I can just kill this off and go back to what we were doing. So let me kill that. And now I'm going to have the agent continue. So I'm going to add everything that we did up until this point. And I'm going to say, let's continue with phases 4 and 5 because everything's working. Looks like it's working. Implement phases 4 and 5. There we go. And by the end of this, we should have a data cache ready for us to use. So I wanted to briefly show off full terminal use just so y'all know what is possible with these agents these days. Now you can have it run things autonomously for you, which is very cool. Okay. So now we're looking at the since parameter. It makes to-do list. You've seen all of that stuff before. And yeah, I think that's really the basis of everything I want to show. You can set up rules. You've got prompts. You have terminal use if you want it to navigate things for you. And from here, it's really up to you to like codify everything that is in your code base. Yeah. Are there any questions that people have working on all this stuff? Because there is a lot more that I haven't discussed yet, but I will try to do like a general overview of all that stuff while this is running. So if I hit the review code button, for example, You can look at all of the code changes in here. And something I haven't talked about yet is being able to comment and review an agent's code. So that's something that we can also talk about in here for sure. Yeah, it's very impressive. Well, thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay. So we're looking at all this stuff. And I will say some of the progress is just having the agent investigate and work on things for us. So I can also show off parallelization a little bit. We don't have work trees set up. I thought that was a little bit too far for these streams, but maybe not. Maybe it would be useful to include like work trees and other things. Also, I may actually open it up to y'all. What else have you seen people doing with coding agents that you want to understand better? Because something on my list is work trees, because that lets you work on multiple tasks locally in parallel. The most that I've done is clone the same repository in multiple copies and then have the agent work in each of those copies. But that feels kind of silly. Work trees are kind of in vogue. So it is something that I would want to look at. And yes, you can use Windows with WSL. Totally. Okay, so what's it doing here? So it's going to run cargo format. It's also going to remove the cached DB. That seems right to me. So you can see there, even with auto approve set up for the model, there is still a deny list like remove where you do need to ask it. Okay, cool. And now it's actually checking the TUI. So the command is loading. I'll wait for the TUI to fully load and display issues. We will see. I was running into issues where it was like not loading at all, and maybe it's going to encounter that here. We will see. Yeah. Okay, I don't know. It looks like it's not loading. Yep, it is willing to sit here and wait, but I'm able to talk to the agent, by the way. It's taking much longer to load than normal. I think it's stuck related to our changes. So I can just send it a thing while it's monitoring the output. That's a fun thing. It appears stuck. It's also able to find files and investigate. I see the issue. All right, cool. So it's looking at the files. I don't know if it's able to make code changes while a command is running. Yep. I think if you hit Q, let me ask it to do that. Oh, it's not able to because it's currently hanging. Yeah, that's... Let me hit it harder. Is that what it just said? Oh, that's funny. Okay, so it managed to kill it. Amazing. All right. So now we're looking at this stuff. It might be a rate limit. Yep. And it's going to check on my GitHub token. No token set. Okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. I needed that. All right, boom. And there it is. Super fast. Okay, so it debugged the issue. It realized I needed a GitHub token. Thank you, sir. So now it's just going to check on the cache again. But off to the side, I'm just going to run this myself. And I'm going to see what's going on. Oh, and yeah, I need to set this for every time. Okay. And if we look at this right away, okay, so it deleted the cache. Yep, cool. Nice. Yeah, so on subsequent loads, it is snappy. Amazing. So that must be pulling from the cache. We love that. Okay. Now, I am also going to ask it, because you can just keep asking it questions if you want. Like, do we set up a separate cache for each repository that we open, or is it one shared cache? I forgot to ask it about that, because it looks like it was opening the warp.dev repository, and I was not. I don't know. So let's ask it. Okay, cool. So it actually does do that. Very cool. Yeah, that explains how we were able to get a cache for warp.dev as well. So let me run cargo run .dev/warp, I believe it was. Okay, so that's loading for a long time. But it may have done some tests where it was deleting the cache, question mark. Let me try running it now that it's hot. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. It seems at least inconsistent. Oh, I forgot to set my environment variable on that one. That's on me. So let me just close that and then run it again. Amazing. Okay, it works. It works really well. So at this point, I would probably ask it to do the same workflow that we've already been doing. So I would probably say, like, commit this code, and then I could, because I want to use a new agent, I'm going to say stage this code with the commit message. Then I'm going to say review the code in the previous commit, and then we're going to make sure that's ready. I forgot to make a branch because I got excited, but we should be good here. And now I'm going to make a new conversation, and I'm going to ask it /plan. Review the code that was written in the previous commit. Look for code quality and opportunities to simplify. I'm using a custom prompt just because I want to look at the previous commit instead of the changes against main, because we are on main. So now it's going to look through all that and review its own code. Again, in a new conversation. This is why I wanted to run each command separately, so I have a new conversation available. I have also heard recently that sub-agents are a way to approach this, which is something we're working on. And if we had a sub-agent that's just for code review, I imagine you would get a similar effect. So just calling that out, I guess. But yeah, now that we're reaching the end of this, is there anything that y'all want to see on the next one? Or anything that you want to see in Warp in general? Can it build playwright test and run them? Sure. Yeah, why not? Yeah, you could totally have it just write some playwright test for you and then run it in a CLI. In fact, I could probably demo that. Let me try to find something that I have. So a playwright demo, I'm curious how deep you would want it to go. So like you could have it just run the playwright command and monitor the output and then look at the output from there. But there are also like ways to have it navigate the code for you so you don't even need the test. There's two flavors of it. But you could have it just like run test suites for you. I don't think I have any playwright tests on a repository for this machine. So can't demo that, but yes, you absolutely can. Okay, and here we are. It's just looking at some code simplification, robustness improvements, no error logging for cache operations. I agree with that. Type safety, sure. All of that stuff is pretty important. So yeah, this is just a general overview of like a more powerful workflow. I'm going to end the stream here since we're at time, but to give a brief overview of everything we talked about, you can set up reusable workflows in Warp. There are / commands for everything that you might want to do. There's ways to look at your rules, for example. So if I go to /open rules, you can look at all your global rules. I like using this for preferences like always run cargo format, which we saw it was doing over here. You can also add rules and add prompts with / commands. So we looked at a few prompts that we added so that we don't have to manually type things every time. We looked a bit at full terminal use. So if you wanted to execute a command that requires interaction, you can trust that it's able to do so. And we also talked a lot more about like just have the agent review its own code, have the agent make pull request and pull request descriptions, see where you could use an agent for like every aspect of the workflow, not just researching, not just writing the code, but everything up to PR. Just see how far you want to stretch these things. And yeah, beyond this, I would like to add some resources on like work trees, parallelization. Now that we have ambient agents that run in the cloud, that's also something that's worth talking about. So all that stuff is to come in our content feeds and other places. So give us a follow, of course. And we will try to run these live streams on a regular basis. So I hope to see y'all on the next one if you want a refresher or we add anything new to this stuff. Yeah. So you said they're run, and if it fails, auto fix it. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yep. I tend to do that for testing flows. And you're reminding me that I probably should demo a project that has tests in place, since most people want to see the test ran before it returns control to me. I've done this for other repositories. Don't have time to get into it. But yes, you could add a rule or a project-based rule, which is what I would do in this case. So I would say, like, go to my project rules, and I would say run the test suite, or I would probably have in here like a cargo test XXX, and then I would have something at the top that says always run the test suite for returning to check your work. And it will just fix its issues as it iterates. So that way you don't have to like go in there and manually verify everything. So good call out. Yes, you can totally do that. All right, I'm going to let y'all go, but this was a great stream. Definitely hope to see y'all around the community channels and other things. If you want to see what we're doing at Warp or give feedback, you can head over to our preview Slack where we talk about all of this stuff. So yeah, take care everyone, and it was good chatting.